Hi guys, it's Matt from Max on UK here, and in this tutorial we are going to be adding animated textures to objects. So sometimes in your scenes you might have TV screens or videos and things like that you're going to want to play as part of your animation, and in this tutorial we are going to be looking through that. So I'm going to create myself a new material, double clicking there, and then under the Attributes Manager just going to click the three dots and I'm going to get the movie that I'm going to add to my texture. And this is a nice little movie called What is 3D? Just a nice little movie produced by Maxon to show what 3D actually is. I'm just going to click open. It's going to ask, do I want to create a copy at the project location? My answer is no. That means it will copy and paste wherever it's found its file to a local server, a local folder that will always be referenced by the Cinema 4D file. But I'm quite happy where I know my file is at the moment, and I'm going to click no to that. Okay? So double clicking the material will bring up the material editor, and then here I've got access to the sort of video itself. So if I click that, you can see that I'm now under the shader and I've got my animation here. If I click the animation tab, okay, you can see that we've got a couple of things. So I'm just going to move that to the right hand side because I'm going to use that in a minute. Okay, and then I'm going to need something to put my animation on. So you can choose a cube, you can choose spheres and cones and polygons and stuff, but for the purpose of this tutorial I'm going to choose a plane. Okay, so not too bad, it gives me what I need. Just going to rotate it up. Okay. Now, depending on the size of the video that you have will depend on the size of the plane and stuff that you need to create. If I drag and drop my movie on there at the moment, and you see I can't actually see anything, and if I scrub through, you can see that I can't see anything to do with that animation whatsoever. So under the material editor, if you go to the editor part of that particular material, you can see that there is an animate preview button. Okay, now I'm just going to put a tick in that box, and now if I scrub through in Cinema 4D, you can see that the animation or movie or whatever it is that you have will play as you scrub through your timeline. You can see it's a bit squished, so this is where I just need to adjust my plane. Okay, as I rendered out in the HD format, okay, I just need to adjust this to my HD settings, which will be 1920 by 1080. Okay, and you can see that I now have something that works to the right size. I'm just going to increase the amount of time that my animation here has to say 1000 frames, just so that you can see that I can play with more of its timings and things. So straight away I've drag and dropped this animation and it plays with no problem all the way through. And if my animation time here was longer, so it's nearing the frames that there is, if I just go to my color and then have a look, you can see that my animation is 6,809 frames. If I was to make this video 6,809 frames long, then my animation would play happily on that plane all the way through from beginning to end. But what if I didn't want it to start straight away? So this is what I can change. At the moment you've got three different types of modes for the timing. So there is simple, which will play the movie from the start straight to the end. Then you have loop, which will play the movie from start to finish repeatedly, depending on the number of loops that you put in the loop tab at the bottom. And then ping pong, which will play the movie from start to finish, okay, and then go backwards. Depending on what you want, so if you've got like a little TV screen, loop would be quite good, because then you could just increase the number of loops that this screen has, like a little rolling advert on your TV. Okay, and then you have the timing method. Now, exact second, okay, will ensure that the movie is played at the correct speed. So depending on the number of seconds there are in your video and the number of seconds there are in your Cinema 4D file, it will match it exactly. Exact frame will match the number of frames that there are in your animation to the number of frames that there are on your video, or the other way around. That means that if your animation or film or video or whatever was rendered out at a higher or lower frame rate than the one Cinema 4D is using in the file, then it will go either faster or slower. So if it was rendered at a slow frame rate, say like 15 frames a second, and then you stick it in my 30 frames a second Cinema 4D file, it will play twice as fast. Kind of a bit like when you watch Charlie Chaplin movies on new televisions at frame rates that weren't designed for. It goes a little bit crazy. Okay, and the third option is range, and that allows you to choose a specific range of when you are able to play your animation to and from. So if you wish to have an animation start at a different time, then this is the way to do it, which is what we're going to do here. So if I just click on range, and then it asks its start range and its finish range. So if I was to say choose 50 frames in, and then how long do I want it to play for, say 500 frames. Okay, if I scrub through now, I'm just going to deselect that. If I scrub through, you can see that the animation doesn't start playing now until 50 frames. And then if I scrub all the way through and get to 500, okay, it finishes the animation. But what that's done is it's taken my 6,809 frames and it's condensed it into 450. So the animation would play incredibly fast. So if I wanted to, say, only play the last little bit, okay, so say where the happy animating pops in, then I can choose that. So say if I, let's see, it's around, knowing this animation, it's around 6,600. Okay, maybe a little later than that, say 620. There we go. That's fine. So that's where it will start playing from. Okay, so it will show that frame all the way up until frame 50, and then it will play that animation. But now it's playing only 200 frames over the course of 450. So my animation is going to go too slow. So I'm just going to adjust this. So let's get it finishing at 0, 0 because it makes the math easier. Okay, so I know the difference between that, between the movie start frame and the movie end frame is 180 frames. So if I wanted it to play at the right speed, it starts at 50, okay, and if I just add the 180 to that, giving me my 230 frames, now if I just press play, you can see that 50 frames it starts, and then it's lagging a little bit because it's referencing a video file. You will find that it will play back the right speed when you are dealing with Cinema 4D's render out, and it will work its way through that file, work its way through that video, and then the animation should fade out and finish at roughly 230 frames, okay, because there's the fade out at the end, which is fine, okay. If I wanted it to loop, okay, I could increase 1 and then it would play that at twice the speed, okay, so I don't want any loops, which means that that range could be simple, to be honest, and then it will just simply play my animation in the middle of that. Okay. Now, one of the things I find that works really well, certainly if you've got TV screens, is you just might want to adjust your textures a little bit, so bringing the specular highlight down, maybe increasing how shiny it is. But one of the best ways of really giving this a realistic look, certainly if you've got some decent lighting in your scene or want some realistic lighting in your scene, is to just copy the information that we've got here. So just go to the texture tab there and copy shader and paste it into your luminance channel. Once you know that the settings for the color are fine, otherwise if you adjust you'll have to make sure that you do that again because these are two different channels. But if you end up with global illumination or ambient occlusion or things and you want this screen to have an effect on the lighting around you, then using the luminance channel here will allow you to get that screen to produce realistic lighting from outside. So now if I just play, gets to my 50 frames, the animation plays happily and then fades its way out. Okay, so I'm hoping that tutorial was useful for you in animating textures, and I will catch you next time. Bye.